the dead matter that has no mind, and the brilliant spirit that does not cerebrate. Verse number 30. Inert matter does not know, knowledge has no thought, and does not articulate. Knowing knowledge to be all, letting go, one's inner state becomes boundless. Indeed, thereafter, he never suffers confined within a body. Commentary. A child's first experience when it comes into this world from its mother's womb is being exposed to extremes of heat and cold and light. Birth itself is painful. The child is initiated into the world with a loud cry. Almost all the child's initial behavior patterns come from acceptance of pleasure and avoidance of pain. It reaches out and it withdraws. Pain and pleasure, strife and harmony are the principles that are operative in the physical body. And how many kinds of physical pain there are. Virtually every part of the body can experience pain, ranging from minor irritations to major overwhelming sensations. The body is a bundle of pains. They are compensated for by various pleasures, but compared to the many possibilities of pain, there are relatively few areas where pleasure can be evoked. We have two polar aspects in us. One is the inertness of the physical body, the body we can see and which can be laid in a coffin and taken to the burial ground. The other aspect is the pure soul, or the self. We are not troubled by either of these. When a dead body is put into a crematorium and burnt, it does not undergo any pain. The body as such is painless. The pure soul as such is painless. In between there is a region that is full of pain and pleasure. When, for instance, a person has to undergo major surgery, and the surgeon plans to cut deep into the body, an anesthetic is administered so that the patient does not know what is going on. He does not feel anything. It is as if that part of the body has no pain of its own. When the dentist pulls out a tooth or drills into one, after the Novocaine has been administered, we only know something is happening because of the sound. Inert matter as such does not experience pain or pleasure. What is the effect of the anesthesia? All awareness is taken away from the inert matter. As long as it remains as pure matter, it experiences no pain or pleasure. What is it that is painful? It is not the tooth, eye, stomach, neck, or back. There are certain sensory areas which become agitated, and there is a consciousness which accompanies these agitations. All our bondage to life and release from it are confined within this one region. When we are physically hurt, we live in the body. Most of the rest of the time, we live in a social image of ourselves. We live in the physical body at the breakfast or lunch table, when some delicate dish is enjoyed. Even then, if there is good conversation, we attend to our social image and may not even notice we are eating. Our social identity says, I am so and so. In the eyes of my colleagues, my friends, my competitors, and my enemies, this is the image I want to impress. Part of this image comes from the expectations of others. Other people expect you to wear a certain kind of dress, to have a certain kind of form, to speak with a certain kind of dignity. You watch all these social expectations and secretly try to conform to them. Thus, in about 20 years, you build up a personality, your social image. Afterwards, if any part of that image becomes tarnished, you get frightened. You think, now I'm going to be rejected because my social image is no longer perfect. Someone can now easily exploit you through character assassination or even blackmail. If someone's reputation is assailed, it is as bad as killing the body. One may even commit suicide. You should not confuse the social image with the soul or the self. It is only the social ego. We live in the body and the social ego. If we are not suffering from pains like a head or stomach ache, we are suffering from the pains of what others think of us, or what happened to our trust in another person, or their trust in us, or to our love. This can become more gruesome and cause more suffering than physical pain. People have a remarkable resilience to physical pains, but when the social ego is tortured, we may succumb rapidly to the pressure. This type of apperception is what was described in verse 28 as the knowledge in between. In between the bodily aspect and the soul aspect is an intermediary knowledge which includes the conditional states of consciousness. This alone is where we experience the awareness of pain and the awareness of pleasure. We have 4 states of consciousness. One is wakeful experience, where we interrelate with other persons, things, and events. We also have dream experience. Consciousness alternates between the wakeful and the dream, and both these regions of awareness are filled with painful and pleasurable experiences. This is the horizontal movement of consciousness. There is also a vertical possibility in the movement of consciousness. It can rise to the transcendental heights or sink into deep sleep, where we do not know anything. In deep sleep there is no pain, no pleasure, no physical ailment, or any kind of social humiliation. It is a state where we merge into nature. Nature or Prakriti has the triple aspects of sattva, a pure, clear state of reflection; rajas, a turbulent state of distortion and conditioning; and tamas, an opacity, where consciousness is veiled from everything. The inertial aspect of matter predominates in deep sleep. Here the turbulent kinetic aspect of the mind and its capacity to reflect or mirror are both enveloped by tamas or darkness. You do not know anything. Only when there is partial knowledge can you relate yourself to a quality. In sleep, experience becomes non-qualitative because nothing is perceived. You cannot say ugly or beautiful if you do not see. In silence, there is neither dissonance nor resonance. You cannot say someone is talking sense or nonsense unless they speak. So when you are completely enveloped by tamas, you are in the deep sleep state. There you escape all pains and pleasures. The deep sleep state is the negative aspect of the vertical potential of consciousness. The positive aspect is when you transcend all 3 qualities of nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Then you are not in an unconscious state. You are all consciousness, through and through, pure consciousness. This consciousness that transcends the triple modalities of nature is called turiya. The vertical axis includes all degrees of awareness, from none at the vertical minus to total at the vertical plus. Thus we have in all 4 states, wakeful and dream, deep sleep, and the transcendental. We need to cultivate an attitude in which we can clearly understand certain basic concepts. To begin with, we have a body. An aspect of self or consciousness is illuminating this body. It is inevitable for the body to have the qualities of sattva, rajas, and tamas. The body is constituted of 5 elements which display their characteristics in experiencing sound, form, touch, taste, and smell. The 3 qualities and the 5 elements interact. What you hear will be elevating and musical when sattva functions, agitating when rajas functions, and depressing and deadening when tamas functions. What you see may be luminous, inspiring forms when sattva operates, exciting forms which can put you through all kinds of agitations with rajas, or a kind of blackout where you cannot see anything clearly when tamas operates. In this way, the 3 gunas operate in all 5 elements. Our manifested form consists of the 5 senses and the mind, intellect, memory, and the ego. Any of these may have errors and defects. There can be defective hearing, defective vision, defective discernment of various tactual stimuli. A mind can be retarded, abnormal, or subnormal, malfunctioning in many ways. Some people experience too much memory becoming available all at once. In certain kinds of madness, a person remembers many unnecessary things, all at the wrong times. So many memories crowd into the mind that it is overwhelmed. The person is helpless to stop them. Again, if the door between memory and articulation is opened, the memories come out endlessly as many disconnected statements. You can have trouble with the mind bringing up unnecessary worries about the past, the present, and the future, and then you have intellectual disquiet. When this happens, you cannot make decisions. Whenever you argue in your mind and come to a conclusion, a counter-argument arises. You are torn between 2 or more conclusions and you cannot decide. So you can have problems at any level, at the level of manas, the interrogating or questioning mind, chittam, the recalling mind, and buddhi, the deciding mind. Finally, you can have trouble with the ahankara, the ego. This might make you personally self-conscious, wanting to be accepted by everyone. Often there is a great craving, a thirst for recognition. You look all around thinking, who is going to admire me? Who is going to recognize me? You are always saying, I and the other, I and the world, I and the people. You are suffering from I and the other all the time. What a wretched life! Somehow you have to transcend all these maladies, because without doing so, life becomes a horror. Narayanuguru's suggestion is that we turn our affiliation from the physical body and the social ego to a third possibility, our own pure self. He begins this verse by reminding us that the pure self does not speak or even think. Jadam arivillarinyu chintayella. Know that the discursive thought going on in your mind is not yourself. When people like R.D. Laing says self, they are referring to this cogitating, thinking mind. This is what the Guru refers to as the not self. Not self is recognized in the Western world as self. Buddhists call it anatman, that which is not atman. Here we are not saying that when a person has physical pain, there is no physical pain. Certainly there is physical pain, but it is of the body, not of the self. The body is animated by a fragmentary aspect of consciousness, which is colored and conditioned, so it knows pain. Over time, this becomes your major concern and major affliction until you cannot extricate yourself from it. You must learn to free yourself from your absorption with your bodily and egoistic states. If you are a fully released person, you can still attend to your bodily states and social functionings, but with a certain amount of detachment. You attend to them just as you attend to your car or your computer or your radio or television. You know your car or piano or radio are good things. So if something goes wrong, you don't just say, oh, it's only my car, and walk away and leave it. It's essential to get it repaired. In the same way, it is essential to take care of the body. Whatever is inevitable is inevitable, but if something can be corrected, it should be. The most essential thing here is to know that there is a third possible affiliation, one with your pure self. After affiliating with the self, you can treat your relationship with the ego and the body with a normal attitude, rather than the exaggerated attitude of most people. The Guru says if you can do this, you become a Vishadantarangan, a person with an expansive consciousness, whose mind is no longer confined to one little thing in life, such as your headache or your toothache. You are still aware that there is a headache or a toothache, but you don't allow them to occupy your whole beingness to the point where you are nothing more than just an ache or a pain. You maintain your inner clarity in and through your pains and pleasures. All the contemplation, meditation, and discipline we do is only for this one purpose of disaffiliating ourselves from body identity and ego identity, and establishing an identity with our pure spirit. It is a pilgrimage. We are walking away from us to arrive at us. From where do we go? From the periphery of our skin and this feeling of ego. Where do we arrive? Deep down within us. The distance from our periphery to our center, seemingly so close, is in reality very, very far. That's why the Upanishads say it is far and near, inside as well as outside. It is the farthest from all and the nearest of all. Nothing is nearer than your center, and yet nothing is a longer journey. It is very difficult to arrive at it, but once you do, everything is expansive. There is suffering in this world, but if you are too concerned with it, you will miss your whole life. In spite of suffering, in spite of diseases, you should go on. Let the body drop off. One day it will drop on its own anyway. What do you do when your car won't go? You try everything, and when nothing works, you have to tow it to a garage. If the mechanic says it is hopeless, it goes to the junkyard. You throw it away. With our body, it's the same. When it comes to the ego, it is a hard nut to crack. Social acceptance has become a great necessity. A greater necessity, though, is your acceptance of your spirit, acknowledging your own truth, your real existence. Your primary and most valuable identity is not even recognized. Jesus asked, what does it matter if you lose a limb? If you are losing your soul by saving your limb, that is a greater loss. Only when we understand this can the paradox of the great sufferings of the masters on the physical plane and even the social plane juxtaposed with their calm, serene life in the spirit be resolved. There are many such examples before us, like Jesus, Saint Francis, Saint John of the Cross, Ramana Maharishi, Sri Ramakrishna, Narayana Guru. Physically, they underwent the highest degree of intense pain. Some of them also had to undergo the mockery of the whole society. Jesus was abused and spat upon. Sri Ramakrishna was treated as a madman. Even Mahatma Gandhi, a man of great wisdom, who came and saw Narayana Guru and was convinced of his greatness, still went and wrote in his paper that he was to be treated only as a Shudra, an outcast. Such is this world. We are so socially conditioned. In spite of all these physical and social tortures and abuses, there comes from these masters the greatest peace on earth, the highest form of human consolation. They are our solace. In them we find our peace, our inspiration. Clearly, it is the Master's identification with the Spirit that calls to us, that beckons us towards our own pilgrimage. Jesus always referred to another entity he called my Father in heaven. The Upanishadic rishis always say, thus we have heard, or thus it is revealed. They don't say I say, they say iti shushruma. This is what we have heard, which is very important, not belonging to any social ego. To release ourselves from the clutches of the body and the society, we transcend. Thereafter, pain may be in your body, but you don't suffer. Disgrace may be sitting on your name in the society, but you don't suffer. This is a scheme given to us for working out our own release from a twofold misery. This is really one of the most beautiful verses of Atmapadesh Satakam. For years and years I have used this one verse for meditation in all my troubles, physical as well as social. This verse has saved me many times. Again and again I go over it. Sometimes when there are bodily troubles, people around are upset and the doctors are annoyed, giving me all kinds of medicines. I find over and above all this that the only medicine which gives me utmost relief is this one verse. It goes on saying, this inert matter does not know anything. My pure soul is not the one which sits and thinks and worries. It is not the one which speaks to people. It's one all-pervading consciousness. This body is just one thing floating in that ocean of consciousness, like a piece of cork. Sometimes it may be up and sometimes down. Thus there comes an expansive, transcendent consciousness. Is there pain? Yes, there is pain. Did someone say something terrible about me? Yes, he said, I am a very evil man. Om, Om. Are you not very evil? Om, be it so. What of it? You are greatly released. There is no greater achievement to make. And the free translation of verse 30 is as follows. The inert body does not know. It does not cogitate or articulate. One who knows all this to be only variations of knowledge becomes expansive in the transparency of comprehension and does not thereafter suffer from body identification.